I've been inside Epic Universe. I rode the rides, explored the lands, I even met some monsters and some dragons, and now I'm here for real talk to answer the questions that you want answered. Like, is it worth the hype? Let's find out. I'm gonna be real with y'all because I think that Epic Universe has had a lot of yap around it. Everybody's been talking about it. I've been talking about it. We've seen a lot of content come out of the last week or so since they opened up photos and videos, and it's hard to know what it's really like inside Epic Universe from all these accounts. So I'm gonna answer some questions. I'm gonna be really straight about the experience because y'all are spending a lot of money to visit a park like this. You could be flying, which is expensive, the travel's expensive, and it might be the kind of thing where you're considering swapping your typical Disney vacation for Epic Universe. And if you're gonna do that, if you're spending all this money to go there, I want you to know what it's really like. First question, how amazing is it? This is a more complicated question than you might think. I have been to Epic Universe. I did a VIP tour on a press day, so I experienced a lot of the park, not all of it. My first impression was awesome. I absolutely loved it, but I want to temper expectations a bit. Epic Universe is really, really super cool, and I think that they accomplish things with immersion that have never been done before. They basically took the successful immersive aspects of Diagon Alley, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter in the existing Universal parks, and like Galaxy's Edge at Disney, Avengers Campus at Disney. They smushed all those successful aspects together, and then they made them better and did it 4 times. So all of the main lands of Epic Universe, besides the hub, have the same level of immersive spectaculousness. That's not a word. So all 4 of those lands, besides the hub, have this level of immersion that just goes beyond. I am a massive nerd for immersive stuff, so this is a real win for me. I feel like I'm exploring worlds that I love. I'm getting to explore Berk, I'm getting to explore Darkmoor, where all the Universal monsters live, getting to explore Wizarding Paris, and that for me is one of my favorite things about a theme park, which is why I personally found Epic Universe to be so successful. However, there aren't a ton of rides. There are really only around a dozen attractions total, and that's just not a ton of rides for a full day. While the crowds are really high, maybe those rides will fill a full day for folks that only care about the rides, but once those crowds calm down in the next year or so, it might be that if you really only care about the rides, there just aren't enough to fill your day. Logistically, this park functions a little bit differently than other parks we've seen before. It's got the classic hub and spoke, where Celestial Park is the hub, with each of the 4 lands acting as a spoke off of that hub. You might be familiar with this from the Disneyland or Magic Kingdom model. But that said, the spokes all only have one entrance and exit. They're able to be closed off at that entrance and exit. We're yet to see how Universal plans to use that mechanic, if they plan to use it on regular park days, and how it affects crowd flow in both those lands and the rest of the park. The next question is, what blew you away the most? For me, it was the immersion. I should get a beverage. I think my last green juice could be good. This glass doesn't look very clean. Diagon Alley is one of my favorite lands in any theme park, and that's because despite only having one true attraction and a couple of shows, some dining, and despite being crowded all of the time, it feels like walking around in the Harry Potter books, which is what I am seeking as a theme park guest, is to feel like I'm existing in the world that I love. And Epic Universe really accomplishes that. I am a big Dragons kid, and I have seen the How to Train Your Dragon movies, but I was never like a part of the fandom. I was never like a How to Train Your Dragon nerd. Berk, I fell in love with. It feels like walking around in a magical land. It feels spectacular. And I was just absolutely blown away by how effective the immersion is in these lands, from the theming, the wandering characters, and the stories that the lands are telling without ever stepping foot on an attraction. Speaking of which, the question, anything that surprised me, the biggest thing that surprised me were the character interactions. I did a lot of character interactions because I was there for work. I know you all wanted to see them, and they ruled. I had the most fun with those characters. In fact, I kind of have like parasocial relationships with them because the character interactions were so good. Now here's that real talk. I was there for a media day. We are in the first few days of Epic Universe being open. These character interactions are gonna be the best characters that we ever see for Epic Universe. They are at peak because they're new and they're getting shown off right now. And so Universal is really looking to have the best character interactions they can. And they absolutely do, because they feel so real and they help to tell the stories of the lands. Do you feel let down at all? The park was really cool. I had high expectations. There's a lot of hype around the parks, and I feel like the immersion blew it so far out of the water that I didn't really have room to be let down, despite all of the hype. All of the hype I'm still seeing, I still can't wait to go back. How big is it compared to other Orlando parks? This one is actually kind of tricky because it's pretty difficult to find an accurate acreage estimate of Epic Universe. From a feel perspective, from a guest perspective, I would say it feels about the same size as Animal Kingdom, which is funny because Animal Kingdom is actually the largest Disney park, but it doesn't feel that way because most of that area is in animal exhibits. From an actual guest walking around perspective, I would say it feels about the same size as that, perhaps about the same size as Universal Studios, maybe a little bit bigger. Also, the navigation of this park is a lot better than like Islands of Adventure, which feels huge because you cannot cross the park because there's water in the way. So it feels like a big park. It's a lot of walking. I crisscrossed a couple of times though, and my count for the day from about 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. was about 10,000 steps. So it really wasn't anything too wild when it comes to step count. It doesn't feel overwhelmingly large. And I would say that just from a feel perspective, each land feels plenty big enough to feel like there's a lot to see, there's a lot to explore. Planning and strategy. This is a big one. Best rope drop strategy. As is true with many a theme park, the best rope drop strategy is to head to the most popular lines that do not have any sort of line restrictions. If virtual line is in place, which I think it is highly likely that virtual line will be in place for Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry, as they are already using virtual line in team member previews. If that's the case, I think that rope dropping something like either Stardust Racers or Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein experiment, is gonna be your best bet. Those lines are gonna shoot up, so the earlier you can get in line, the more likely you are to have a shorter line experience. But don't you worry, we're gonna be testing out all of this. I have a lot of admission to Epic Universe, and we'll be going a lot with the primary goal of figuring out what the best tips and tricks are to make sure that when you go, you can navigate in a not stressful way that lets you get through everything you wanna do, even if you don't have a ton of time in the park. Where are the choke points? The portals, I think, are choke points. One, they're photo spots. So any of these portals, folks are gonna be stopped. They're gonna be excited to be at the portal. And then when you're walking through, it's a wide pathway, but when a lot of people are moving through there, it's gonna feel like a bit of a choke point as you move through the portals. Epic Universe doesn't have a ton of shade. It's because the pathways are so large. Pros, you won't end up in like pinch point, huge crowds. Cons, wear your sunscreen and hydrate. Are there single rider lines? Absolutely. There are a lot of single rider lines. In fact, most of the attractions offer single rider lines. The ones that don't include Yoshi's Adventure, Fire Drill, Dragon Racers Rally, and Constellation Carousel. But otherwise, there are single rider lines. That does not guarantee that those will be open all of the time. Universal does have single rider lines that close depending on the time, like at Rip Ride Rocket or Men in Black Alien Attack. But if the single rider line is open, that could be a great way to skip the line. We will absolutely be testing out the single rider lines. You don't have to be visiting a theme park alone to use them. You just have to be willing and able to split up your party. You can get in the queue together with your party, just know that you will be seated separate from them. How many days do you need? Is it a one-day park? To truly experience the park, you need 2 days. And you might need 3 if you are really in love with the different land options and really want to fully experience everything the park has to offer without feeling rushed. That said, once the crowds calm down, you might be able to get through every single one of the rides in this park in one day. And you can bet I am giving it a try pretty soon after it opens. I think like 4 days after it opens, I'm gonna try to ride everything in Epic Universe in one day, and we're gonna see how it goes. Obviously, it is sold out that day, so, wish me luck. It also might be a one-day park if you've got younger kids. Now, I'm gonna talk a lot more about whether or not Epic Universe is family friendly, but younger kids just can't do as much if they don't meet the height requirements for most of the rides, and that might mean that Epic Universe is a one-day park as you explore the shows, Constellation Carousel, the meet and greets, and the lands, but don't feel super pressured to get on the rides since the little ones can't do them. All right, I got asked many times what the best land is. I was 100% sure that the best land was going to be Dark Universe. For me at least, I love Universal Monsters. Dracula is my favorite book, and I was so excited to see the worlds that I have fallen in love with on film and in books come to life around me in Darkmoor, and somehow How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk beat Darkmoor for me. That land is enchanting. I fell in love, and I have heard many folks call it a sleeper hit. Everyone's looking forward to Nintendo, Harry Potter, or Dark Universe, and Isle of Berk, I think, kind of snuck up of just being enchanting, magical, making you feel like you're a kid again, and exploring an adventurous world in a truly immersive way. Was the windmill on fire? Burning Blade Tavern is located in Dark Universe, and it does have a fire effect where the windmill will catch on fire. It was burning while I was there. I caught it in the corner of my eye for about half a second when I got off of Curse of the Werewolf, but did not catch it in my footage. I don't know how often it burns. Absolutely, I will figure this out for you all once I'm back. Was there a flying dragon? Okay, so I'm sure you've heard the rumors that Epic Universe is going to have real dragons flying over Isle of Berk. Real dragons, you know what I mean. Somebody did catch a video of testing of this, and since then, talk of it has run wild, and Universal does acknowledge that dragons might fly over Berk on their website talking about Isle of Berk. While I was there, I did not see any dragons flying. I have stayed nearby. I haven't seen any dragons flying the entire time that I've been around Epic Universe. One thing that theme park companies tend to do is when they have something ambitious they're trying, they really talk it up, and when it doesn't quite work out, they just stop talking about it. That has not been the case. They are still talking about it, so I am crossing my fingers that I see a real dragonfly. There are a couple of moments in my life in theme parks, which is why I love theme parks, that I felt for just a second before my brain caught up that magic was real. Seeing Tinkerbell fly at Cinderella Castle is one of them. The first time I saw Divine in Animal Kingdom when I was 9 years old was big, and seeing Toothless fly above me was one this time. It's honestly like, I can't wait to see it again. Did Dark Universe change how you feel about Disney's Villains Land? This is a really interesting question because one of the biggest complaints about Disney's Villains Land, which is the upcoming expansion to Magic Kingdom happening beyond Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, is that villains are too scary for kids. Universal monsters are more scary than Disney villains. This is objectively true. And Dark Universe has been made understanding that kiddos who might find these monsters scary are going to be navigating the land. So, if you're a grown-up who likes horror, the horror is there to find. There are spikes on the well, and the story of the spikes is that they were there to impale people so the vampires could drink their blood. That's very scary. But also, Miranda on our team was able to go with her kids, and her kiddo was a little scared interacting with the Invisible Man, and the Invisible Man was wonderful with her. He said that if there was any mischief she got into at home, she could blame it on him, and if he got into any mischief in Darkmoor, he would blame it on her, and they would both get off scot-free. Kind of colluded with her and made her feel a lot more comfortable. Victoria's Frankenstein monster and the Bride of Frankenstein were incredible with the kids I saw them meet, and they were amazing at meeting kids where they are. So if the kids were a little bold and wanted to be intense and show that they weren't scared, the monsters would give them something to be brave about. If not, the monsters were super comforting. Darkmoor is also not that scary during the day. The environments are still really cool, but during the daytime, it's still bright Florida, and it feels like it separates you from those more dark, gothic elements a little bit more. So if you've got a kiddo that you're a little nervous about being frightened in Darkmoor, go ahead and take them in the daytime, and truly, I don't think they'll have any sort of problem. What Dark Universe has shown me is that it's all in the execution, and that absolutely these scarier subjects can be broached in a way that's comfortable for kids. Big question is the best ride / my favorite ride. This is a really hard one. I've been talking to a lot of people to try to determine this. The top 3 rides at Epic Universe are Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry, Monsters Unchained, The Frankenstein Experiment, and Stardust Racers. Whichever of those things is based around a thing that appeals to you the most is going to be your favorite ride. If you love Harry Potter, it's gonna be Ministry. If you love monsters and scariness and cool animatronics, it's gonna be Monsters. And if you love roller coasters, it's gonna be Stardust Racers. Battle at the Ministry. Lots of questions about this one because people really haven't gotten to ride it. First, a couple of spoiler-free notes. Battle at the Ministry has a ride vehicle a little bit like Tower of Terror, but it moves more like the Amazing Spider-Man attraction in Islands of Adventure. There is a drop on it, but it is not as intense as the drop on Rise of the Resistance or Hagrid's. It does not feel like a free fall. It just feels like your vehicle is moving down quickly. It is a combination of screens and physical effects, including many animatronics. The screens are flat, they are not curved, and I did not have any motion sickness issues on this ride, though I think that it could cause motion sickness symptoms for those that are a little more sensitive than me. You do not wear 3D glasses. The screens are so crisp that at times I didn't know if I was looking at an animatronic or an image on the screen. And the story does center around the trial of Dolores Umbridge. My real talk about this ride is that the animatronics move very fluidly, but when they have faces, full faces, not the Death Eater animatronics, I think that they look a little bit like wax figures, like Madame Tussauds wax figures. The faces just look a little strange. The wigs, actually, I think is what really threw me off. So that was the catch I had with this ride, was I just don't think the animatronics broke the immersion a little bit for me, but otherwise, really insanely cool ride. It's hard to describe the visuals that you see and how real they look. It's definitely up there with the most ambitious rides of all time, and I think that it's going to enter that conversation of sort of best theme park rides in the world, especially depending on if it runs well once the park opens. How scary is Monsters Unchained? Monsters Unchained is scary. It is not Halloween Horror Nights jump scare scary. So if you can't handle Halloween Horror Nights, can't handle scary movies, I still think you're gonna be okay on Monsters Unchained. It is intense visuals. You get pretty close up with the monsters. What I would recommend if you are a bit of a scaredy cat is taking a look at pictures of the monster animatronics in advance so you know what to expect. It's mostly very thrilling, very exciting. There's a lot to look at. I did not find it scary at all. I'm a horror buff. There were no jump scares for me, at least. There were no points where I was like, oh, and I do get jump scared pretty easily. I did not get jump scared. None of the visuals are super gruesome, super disturbing or anything like that. It's still accessible in a way without, being prohibitively scary. Stardust Racers versus Velocicoaster. I personally have not experienced Stardust Racers yet. I'll be talking about that in a video coming this weekend where I discuss all of the rides in detail. I have heard from many a coaster buff that Stardust Racers is better than Velocicoaster, which is saying something because Velocicoaster is extremely popular. I've heard that it does feel more intense than Velocicoaster. Minecart Madness. A couple questions about this one. Is it worth the hype? This one has been going mega viral in a lot of places because it looks like the coaster jumps the track. It does not, in fact. This is the Donkey Kong roller coaster. This one is, though it is a family coaster, it doesn't go particularly fast. There are no huge drops. It is thrilling because a lot of times you're going and then the track disappears in front of you and suddenly you're going down, which feels thrilling even if you know that track is not the track you're on. It also is extremely herky-jerky. It shakes you a lot, especially when you are in those parts where you're jumping the track. The ride vehicle is very rough, so that's something to be warned about. If you can't really handle aggressively shaking roller coasters, this one is not going to be for you. I have a question about roller coaster intensity here. Outside of Stardust Racers, the roller coasters are all family coasters otherwise. Most of them have height requirements of 38 to 40 inches. Only a couple of them go higher than that. So most of the coasters are very kid-friendly and they are not overly intense. I have a couple still to ride. I will go into this with more detail when I'm breaking down and ranking the rides this coming Saturday. But the coasters aren't intended to be intense. They're intended to be super fun. The only one that isn't intense, real coaster is Stardust Racers. Would any of these make the Florida top 5? There are a lot of incredible rides in Florida, and I think that these are going to enter the conversation, specifically those 3 best rides of Stardust Racers, Monsters Unchained, and Battle at the Ministry. For me, Monsters Unchained may enter my top 5, although it did make me motion sick, which I think might be a strike against it. But I'll need to ride it a couple more times to fully make that decision. Let's talk motion sickness. I am a motion sickness prone gal. I get pretty motion sick on a lot of rides. My worst offenders are Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, the Hogwarts ride. If I ride Guardians more than one time in an hour, motion sickness town. Simpsons, bad. Jimmy Fallon, bad. So I do get motion sick, nausea. I'm going to talk about my experience. The rides that I think you have to be most concerned about are going to be the more intense roller coaster Stardust Racers, Curse of the Werewolf because of the spinning, and our 2 motion simulators, Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry and Monsters Unchained. I did not get motion sick on Battle at the Ministry. When the ride started, my immediate thought was, oh no, because I was expecting intense motion sickness and I didn't get sick at all, despite keeping my eyes open and not really doing anything to prevent it. Monsters Unchained, I got motion sick. I got nauseous almost immediately, and I was nauseous for about 10 minutes after the ride. This is not motion sickness that comes from wonky screens. The screens look great, and there's a lot of physical aspects to look at. It's just from the sheer amount of movement. It's the Kuka arm, which is the ride system that you'll recognize from the Hogwarts ride, and it moves you around a lot on Forbidden Journey, which makes me extremely sick, makes a lot of people extremely sick. On Monsters Unchained, the Kuka arm moves even more. It's a lot of like fast pivots and things like that, because it's thrilling, it's an exciting ride. For me, it did make me nauseous. It was worth the ride, and I was nauseous for about 10 minutes before it wore off, so it wasn't an intense motion sickness. I didn't even need to like sit down or anything, but I would be prepared for it, potentially medicate if you are prone. And then there's intense spinning on Curse of the Werewolf. You can spin quite a lot on that ride, so that could also be a motion sickness problem. Accessibility, questions about wheelchair accessibility. The park is accessible to wheelchair users. Some of the rides are not unless you can transfer from your wheelchair. One big question I've been getting is about Nintendo, because when you walk into the portal at Nintendo, you go straight onto escalators. There is an elevator entry as well, so that area is accessible. Ride seats, size friendly. Universal has a tendency to have ride vehicles that are not accommodating of all body types. There are a lot of rides that have this issue. Now, some of the rides are going to have more issues than others, just like in every park when it comes to accommodating different body types. There are tester seats for the rides at Universal, so if you are wondering about the comfort of seats or the accessibility of seats, you can try out tester seats before getting in line outside of the rides. All the tester seats do fully have the seatbelt mechanics so that you can see how it would work with your body type. One ride that I'm seeing a lot of questions about is Battle of the Ministry, because this is a new ride vehicle type. These seats were bench style, fairly wide. My VIP tour guide called them some of the most accessible seats that fit the most body types that he's seen in a while for rides that do have tester seats like this. So that's good. The seats on Monsters Unchained are the same as on Forbidden Journey. So if you can ride Forbidden Journey, you can likely ride Monsters Unchained. The rides I have some concerns about are Curse of the Werewolf and Minecart Madness, the Donkey Kong attraction. Those were fairly tight ride vehicles. Particularly Curse of the Werewolf reminded me a little bit of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in how compact the seat is. So make sure to check out those tester seats. There are tester seats outside of the rides that you can access. My first impression was good, but we'll learn more as we start to see more reports from folks who are visiting the park and learn more about what does and does not work for people. How family friendly is Epic Universe? I'm very passionate about this one. One of my favorite things in the entire world is introducing little kiddos to theme parks. Now, a lot of the rides have height requirements of 38 inches or higher. So if you have a little kiddo who's shorter than that, the only two attractions that they can experience are Constellation Carousel and the Splash Pad Astronomica. Those are not a lot of rides. So I think that if you're looking for a lot of rides, Epic Universe is not going to be the place where you're going to be able to take your kiddo on a lot of rides. You're still probably going to want to head to Magic Kingdom over at Disney World for that. So if you want a park experience that is geared towards little kids, Epic Universe is not going to be it. Also, Celestial Park puts the park back in theme park, so it's a great space to be able to get some space when your toddler needs a moment to breathe, just kind of get out of the hectic inner lands, which is awesome. I love that there's this more accessible area in the center of the park to sort of decompress. And that is accessible pretty easily from all the lands at any given time if you need to step out of the hustle and bustle. Best food and snacks. I have really only tried Oak and Star Tavern, but our team has tried a number of things, and so far the standouts are the Butterbeer crepes from Café L'air de la Sirène and the mac and cheese cones in Isle of Burke. Is there a parade or live shows? As of right now, there is no parade, and there aren't really many Streetmosphere live shows outside of the Wandering Characters. Now, the Wandering Characters do a lot for the atmosphere, and there are Wandering Characters in all of the areas except Nintendo, which has a lot of character meet and greets. But those aren't really shows as much as they are interactive moments. Another question is there going to be a nighttime spectacular? This is kind of unclear. Right now, the center of the park is home to fountain shows, which look really awesome and add a lot of beauty to the park during the day, and I think will look amazing at night, which hopefully we get to see soon once we're back in the park in the coming weeks. As of right now, it does not seem to me that there will be like a the nighttime show fountain spectacular, or fireworks, pyrotechnics. There hasn't been any announcement of anything like that. That does not mean that that kind of thing won't be added in the future. So we will absolutely be keeping an eye out for that. In general, Epic Universe has a lot of room to grow. There could be the addition of parades. There could be the addition of fireworks. There could be the addition of more lands. In fact, Epic Universe has several expansion pads already built into the park. So you never know about these additions. They could come at any time. The final questions, including perhaps the most important one of this entire video, we'll start with how many times did I cry? I was really overwhelmed on Epic Day. It was very stressful. I was trying to get a ton of content to be able to get it out, and it was seeing a whole theme park all at once for the first time. I was by myself. None of my coworkers could come with me, so it was a very overwhelming day. I was very overstimulated with everything that I was looking at. I cried 2 times, both of which were in Isle of Berk. One was when I saw Toothless fly. I truly could barely stop myself from honestly sobbing a little bit. I had tears streaming down my face. It was so cool to see Toothless flying. The other time, and this is what I think really speaks to Epic Universe's immersion and magic. The other time what made me cry was I was walking through Isle of Berk. It was the first land in the morning. I'm totally enchanted by what I'm seeing around me. There are real dragons that I'm looking at, and I passed a team member who was working at Spitfire Grill, and she was waving at everybody, and she was saying, "Hello, travelers, voyagers, welcome to Berk. We're so happy you're here. You'll have to see our dragons." And she was so earnest, and it felt so real that I was being welcomed to this magical land by this person who really wanted me to be there. And I think that shows 2 things. One, that immersion is really real. That immediately made tears spring to my eyes, and it really felt like I was there. And 2, team members are a big part of making the magic. These folks have been working so hard to get Epic Universe up and running, and whatever kinks happen as they try to work out the most optimal way to run the parks and all the dining locations and all the attractions, these folks are working so hard to bring a whole new type of magic to the Orlando theme park scene, to all the families that are going to be experiencing Epic Universe, and that is really, really cool. So if you're watching this, Epic Universe team members, thank you so much. I am so excited to see the fruits of all your labors over these last few months and years. I was really impressed with the first impression, and I think that we're going to see a lot of fun from these team members in the coming months and years. Where does it rank with the other Orlando theme parks? This one, if anybody's answering this question, they're lying to you. We can't know yet until it's been open and we actually see how it compares after some time passes. But on a first impression, I would say the Epic Universe is better than the 2 existing Universal theme parks, potentially sits in the middle of the 4 Disney theme parks. And I don't know what your personal Disney theme park ranking is, but you can decide what the middle is. And now our final question, the biggest question: should you believe the hype? Everybody's talking about Epic Universe. Everybody's freaking out about Epic Universe. You're seeing people with their jaws dropped. You're seeing these videos online and these photos. You're seeing people crying in videos. Is it worth all this hype? And the answer is, yeah, it is for theme park people. Epic Universe is the most anticipated theme park project of the last 2 decades. Orlando, and really the United States, hasn't seen a theme park of this caliber open since the 90s. So it's been a long time. A theme park opening is a big deal. Even if it seems kind of frivolous for us theme park people, this is decades and decades of memories to come. It is an entire new generation of people falling in love with theme parks due to this theme park. It is people spending a lot of money to come and experience these places and wanting to have a good time doing it. So it's a really big deal for a theme park to be open, and any theme park like this, there's going to be a lot of hype around it, and seeing a new theme park like this is worth the hype just because it is such an ambitious scale. 4 new lands that are totally immersive, that do things we've never really seen before in theme parks or do things in a new way. That's something that we can all be excited about being excited about. And that is worth some hype. So stay tuned here at AllEars. We're going to be covering a lot more when it comes to Epic Universe, with the goal in mind of making sure that you have a good time. So stick around. If you're still here, please like this video and drop this secret code in the comments so I know that you made it all the way. And don't forget to subscribe. We upload tips, challenges, games, and more from Universal and beyond 7 days a week, because we are serious about fun here. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'll see you next time. Bye.